What I'd like to do now is speak for about 10 or 12 minutes about a new initiative. And I think everybody in this room understands that we are in a new era that requires a new model. We don't know exactly what that era is. We know it's going to be different, and we don't know what the model will be. But the one thing for sure is we have to respond rapidly to change, and we have to respond effectively to change. That means a unified voice, which means power and strength for our organization. And the point is, we cannot afford, I worked on this sentence a lot, we cannot afford to not engage, we can't afford not to engage, but we got to get our asses into the fight, and that's for sure. We're going to, at this meeting, announce the launch of the ASPHO-AAP Advocacy Alliance. And what this capitalizes on is the combined strength on behalf of the children and their families that we care for of ASPHO and AAP. ASPHO, I think, is the second-to-none institution for representing our profession and representing our patients. AAP is really the institution that represents child health in this country. And I have to tell you, when I started on this journey, I thought, well, AAP, AMA, who needs them, what do they do? But there were people who were way smarter than me, some of whom are many of you, you're all smarter than me, but some of the people about this are actually in the audience today, and I'll mention them in a little bit. I want to mention Ken Slaw from AAP, who has been the driving force on the AAP side to make this happen. But we know, with 62,000 members in AAP and 18,000 members in our society, we know that if we work together, we can leverage our talent, our skills, with their talent and their skills and their number and sheer force. What we want to create is a subspecialty specific advocacy agenda for the pediatric hematology-oncology community. We want to be in lockstep with AAP. We want to grow the strength, the visibility, and the identity of ASPHO at the federal and state levels. We are, as I've learned over the past year or so, when it comes to policy, we are a very well-kept secret. With government budgets tightening at all levels, I think we feel threatened every day in terms of our clinical enterprise, in terms of our research enterprise. So we need to be engaged to assure that children with cancer and blood disorders get all that they deserve. This work will not get done unless we do it. AAP is not going to just do it for us. We can't coast on their coattails. We have to engage. They'll do it with us, that's for sure, but they can't do it for us. And if we don't engage, we don't have a voice in our future. It's been said, and I've seen the empty table. If you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And we have been on the menu, and it's not comfortable at all. Sometimes I feel like I'm serving the food at that table. Advocacy requires an engaged membership and resources, and that's basically what I'm here to talk about. Nothing's for nothing. How the Advocacy Alliance will work: membership in both ASPHO and AAP is the key driver to success. We strengthen our advocacy voice in numbers and influence, and we generate the resources required to succeed. I understand, and I want to say I think the executive board, the board, AMC, AAP all understand, but I do understand that you're being asked to add expense. We believe that there's a return on the investment. We believe that this is a value-added expense, and it will be huge for us of specialty, and hopefully will be recognized by you as being huge for you individually. ASPHO and AAP have worked out a plan to keep expenses as low as possible. Currently, AAP dues is $600, and to quote Ken, they offer a very robust value. And again, the members, the individuals who currently were the pioneers and hold dual membership understand that and will be available to talk to you about it. AAP is offering a significant and generous discount to renew AAP membership or to join de novo. It's approximately 50% off dues for new members, that's $300, and $100 off dues for renewal of past members. 1/3 of the dues that ASPHO members pay to AAP will be placed in a dedicated Hematology-Oncology Member Value Fund. This will be overseen by ASPHO. We will exercise our fiduciary responsibility to the membership and AAP, who will do likewise. And the goal will be to generate and return value back to us as members. We'll start with advocacy. There are many things that AAP offers, but as you'll see in a moment, advocacy is what we need to key on. As the fund grows, it can be used for things like maintenance of certification, development of medical homes, or whatever we feel is best for our members and by transference, our patients and families. If we can achieve significant member growth within AAP, AAP is open to lowering dues by 50%, and I suspect more. If at this meeting all 800 of us sign up for AAP, I think that would significantly reduce the cost moving forward and will buy us an enormous amount of advocacy effort. We want to keep the dues in the 300 range. So our goal is at least 300 new members, but we really need as many as possible. I've been enjoying the presidential primary campaign immensely, and I decided that Herman Cain would be the guiding force for this, and he had his 999 plan. I have my 300, 300, 300 plan. I've already been president, so I'm not running for anything. $300 dues, which is 50% of the initial year, with a goal of 300 new members, which would be double the current active membership from our society in AAP, will sustain $300 dues for the future. So keep that in mind. An ASPHO investment is being made. We voted on that yesterday, so we're putting in a substantial amount of money to get this thing rolling, and we will be seeking philanthropy for our efforts. The bottom line: all members of ASPHO are strongly encouraged, and I will do it ceremoniously or quietly, you can watch, to join AAP at this conference, booth 512, or immediately following. I think you have to get your mind around this, and you really have to understand what the consequences of failing to engage at the federal and state level is going to cost us. There are limited resources. This is a zero-sum game. Pediatrics has got to get into this, and AAP can help pediatric hematology-oncology really get into this. So beyond advocacy, this is expensive, and I'm just going to not talk about this slide, but this is what members receive. And what I think you have to realize is there is opportunity for career development, practice development, personal growth through the tools and talent that AAP will offer us. As an example, on the advocacy side, I think we're all aware of the drug shortage. What AAP did was get me to sit in front of the FDA. Now, it's another story I can tell you later about how frustrating that experience was, but indeed I had a seat at the table, and I understood that there are lots of drug shortages, and there are lots of problems, and if we don't have a seat at the table, the louder voices will prevail, and we need to be a loud voice. And the fact that they could get me there, teach me how to participate in a very short briefing, and I'm a hard learner. So teaching me how to participate in this setting very quickly and making me feel that this was a worthwhile and very comfortable first foray into advocacy was something that we can't do ourselves. So look at these things and speak to Jeff Ford, Eric Werner, Zora Rogers, Ken Slaw about what you're going to get for your $300. Where will our resources go? There's a Ken, this is not my language, and people who know me know I would never say we're leveraging a focused piece of the most effective child advocacy voice in Washington, D.C. But what I would say is we're going to do lobbying in the best way. It is amazing what AAP has done and how malleable the Congress really is around something that we can frame appropriately, and I think that's the whole issue, learning how to frame our arguments. The ASPHO Advocacy Committee will work to deliver briefings and updates to ASPHO board meetings, advocacy strategies and sessions with ASPHO committees, access to listservs, advocacy training for ASPHO members, reserved slots at legislative conferences, and access to staff to develop strategies and plans to organize visits to the Hill where we can really be a loud voice. This is natural for us. We're already advocates. Every time we write a letter of medical necessity, we are advocating for our patients. We do it naturally. We've all learned how to write those letters, and we're all pretty successful, and we wonder why we have to bother to do them since we can usually get what we want. So we're effective once we learn the rules of the game, and I think this is what we need to do. We need to raise awareness of pediatric blood disorders and childhood cancers, and we serve an extremely medically vulnerable and often socioeconomically vulnerable population. We're in this, and we're in this to win. I'm looking out at 600 or 700 people and realize the investment in your careers, and for the young people, this is in jeopardy, and we really need to engage. This is a advocacy in action. Identify a problem impacting patients, the pediatric drug shortage. Many of us were blindsided, not for, methotrexate, but if you look at the list of drugs that are in jeopardy of disappearing, it's quite daunting. That's been recognized. Then we find allies, and AAP helps us do that. Then we raise awareness. A lot of this is the ability of AAP to work on the state level to find patients who represent us, sometimes and often better than we can. And then to get in front of federal legislators, the industry, regulatory agencies, the latter being quite daunting, and work with decision makers to find a solution. I think we have pulled together in a monumental effort to stop a particular problem related to methotrexate, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. We have to keep engaged. So these are our top priorities. I think this is not something I would have put it as a top priority a year or 18 months ago, but certainly the impact of drug shortages on the care of children is a priority for us. And also the ability to respond rapidly to emergencies. Who knows what the legislation will bring and what the intended and unintended consequences will be. We don't know the intended because it hasn't been fleshed out as a real plan. We don't even know if the Supreme Court is going to allow it to go forward. But whether the Affordable Care Act goes forward or doesn't, we're going to have to deal with the consequences. We have to respond rapidly to emergencies. AAP can do that. We have, Bill Woods has made this the corner piece of his presidency for good reason. The care and treatment of children and adults, but children of our concern with sickle cell disease is often deplorable. I think it's a national embarrassment, and I think we have had a long time to talk about this. The lag time between identification of the problem and an effort to solve it has been way too long. We have to advocate for that. We have to create medical homes. We have to resist the diffusion of care away from expertise to concentrated expertise, and we have to make the argument that we should be doing that. We have to support research. We need to sustain support for fellowship training. How many fellows we need to train is something that we can get help with. Jeff Hort has done an enormously effective job in defining some of the issues of our practice, and we have to look at future manpower, person power needs in order to plan for the future. AAP has the tools to help us do that. We have to protect Children's Hospital GME and Medicare GME. We have to find funding for all our activities, hematology-oncology research. We have to impact the current thinking about how the federal government funds research and let the country know that we don't survive without the very effective use of tax dollars in our peer-reviewed grant system. Pediatric subspecialty loan repayment. Disabuse people of the notion that we shouldn't give money to individuals who are going to get rich practicing this lucrative subspecialty that we're all engaged in. And that is a mindset, so we have to work to change that thinking, and AAP can help. We have to evaluate and implement, or help with the implementation of all sorts of childhood cancer and similar related to hematology funding legislation. Sometimes legislation is pushed forward based on a very effective and very small constituency that does not have the broad picture in mind. We can influence that broad picture, have a voice, and prevent worse than no legislation is bad legislation, and we have to work to prevent that from happening. What are the next steps? Is a formal legal ASPHO-AAP relationship agreement, I think, will be signed at this meeting. It's something I very much want to do. We're starting, well, if you haven't noticed, this is a sales pitch. It's, it can be in payments, $19.95, package and handling as extra. We're going to start this membership drive now. I'm speaking to division chiefs and program directors about this, but this is my opportunity to get in front of all of you and really ask you to think hard about this. I know it's $300, and I know that if you think about how to spend $300, you might think that there are better ways to do this. And I know by the time you're done being a member of SPR, AAP, ASH, ASCO, AACR, I mean, it goes on, and the hemophilia people are members of 17 different societies. And I know how expensive, one for each factor, I guess. I know how expensive this is, but this is money worth spending. What we need to do is get to work to create our future. A new era requires a new model. A unified voice means strength and power. This is the time to act. Help us launch this initiative. And for as many of you as possible who really believe in this, who said, well, I should have joined AAP, or for those of you who have a new view of what AAP, there's nothing worse than the recently converted. You're seeing that. But for those of you who can get onto this idea and really come forward, there's an opportunity, booth 512, there's an opportunity to sign up today and for the rest of the week. So please consider this. Thank you very much. I think this will be an important initiative.